My dear young friends, sisters and brothers, it's my pleasure and honor to talk to you today. I have learned about the work you are doing through UFMG. We cannot think of a sustainable and peaceful society without justice. And law plays the most important role to attain justice in our society. And you are doing a very commendable work in specializing on related laws and procedures which are going to put an end to modern day slavery, and that is trafficking. Human trafficking is still a big curse. But before talking on it, I would like to tell you that Brazil is like my second home. I have so many friends, sons and daughters and sisters and brothers, and one of my most adorable brother and friend is Lelio Bentis Correa, minister in fact, the minister Lelio. Dear friends, as we know that the world has never faced such a crisis due to this pandemic as we are seeing it today. And that is affecting most on the most marginalized and vulnerable sections of society. And unfortunately, this is bound to lead to the increase of slavery and human trafficking. We know that economies are facing recessions. Unemployment is increasing, and this is resulting in increase of child labor and trafficking. My own organization, Bachpan Bachao Andolan in India, have rescued over 1,000 victims of trafficking during the pandemic time. And when I spoke to a few of them, they had one common saga, that their parents have lost their traditional livelihood. Many of the parents were forced to leave their work and return back to their homes, and they were migrant workers. And this is not the situation of one country. This is happening in many of the developing countries, unfortunately, including in Brazil. I'm aware of the problems the Brazilian children, the marginalized Brazilian children have been facing. And therefore, your role is critical to protect them from this crime and using your knowledge of law. And that requires a deeper sense of compassion, a deeper sense of connectedness with those who are facing and will face such a problem. Dear friends, as we know that half of the 1 billion children who are not able to attend the school today have no access to online education. We also know that almost 1/3 or more than 1/3 of these 1 billion students were highly depending on school feeding programs or other kind of conditional cash transfers or social protection programs. And they are facing severe crisis now. And they are more vulnerable to enter into the force of trafficked ones and slave laborers. And therefore, we as the Nobel laureates came together. 88 Nobel laureates and world leaders have demanded that there should be a fair share for marginalized children. And why we said this? Laureates and Leaders for Children group had conducted a study, and that was so alarming and so serious that during last few months, the rich countries have allocated $8 trillion for the recovery of their economies, their banks and industries, financial institutions. But only 0.13, not even 1% or 0.5% amount has been allocated for the marginalized children and their families in the world. This is unacceptable. This is injustice. How can you think of an equitable world and a sustainable society if we are doing this very injustice by not allocating fair share for marginalized people in the world? And therefore, dear friends, we demanded 20% of COVID-19 response fund must be allocated to the most marginalized 20% people of the world and their children for their health and education, safety and protection. At least $1 trillion should be immediately released so that they should not fall into the trap of slavery, poverty, illiteracy, ill health and so on. There is a campaign which has been launched, Fair Share for Children, including in India and Brazil and many countries. And the youth are taking the lead. And I am expecting from young friends like you, I have big trust in the young people. Because if we have to make a just world, that is possible only when the youth get involved and take the leadership role. You need not to wait for your leaders. You need not to wait for some champions who will come from outside and change the world. You are the one who will bend the arc of history in favor of these marginalized children to protect them from slavery and trafficking. You can use your skills, but more importantly, you should feel a sense of urgency with a deeper compassion, as I said before. Today, when you are closing your event, you have to go with a deeper resolve and a sense of urgency for such marginalized people. Don't think that the situation is so grave and so dim and so dark. This is the part of life. This is the part of history. But somebody has to light that lamp. And once a lamp is lit, then the darkness will go away. It will dispel. Whatever deep this darkness is, it will dispel. I would conclude with a story which I read in my childhood, and I sometimes use it. There was a heavy fire broken out in jungle. All animals and birds were rushing for a safer place, including King Lion. And Lion noticed that there was a tiny humming bird flying straight towards the fire. He was surprised, rather shocked, so shouted, "What are you doing?" She replied, "Sir, I am going to extinguish this fire." He said, "How come?" She answered, "Look at my beak. I am carrying a drop of water. I am doing my bit." Dear friends, I know I have met thousands of young people in Brazil, dozens of thousands rather, in last several years. And I know that there is a beautiful tiny hummingbird inside each one of you. I am here to awaken that bird. You are the one who are going to extinguish this fire of apathy and injustice and indifference and violence and put an end to modern day slavery. Thank you so much.